37. 26 knots down the angle. 106 interval is a rhino at 5. Good. 207 on glide path on course 1 mile. Good. 207 on glide path on course.
At 21:38 on the 26th of March 1991, Singapore Airlines Flight 117, registration 9V-STP, took off from the Malaysian capital Kuala Lumpur for Singapore, carrying 114 passengers and a flight crew of 11 members. 12 minutes after takeoff, 4 of the passengers, all from Pakistan, left their seats for the onboard toilets, before re-emerging minutes later carrying butter knives and large blocks, which they claimed to have been explosives. Moving through the cabin, the 4 men who claimed allegiance to the Pakistan People's Party screamed that it was a hijack and ordered for nobody to move or they'd blow the plane out of the sky, whilst one of them, identified to have been Sahid Hussain Sumro and the leader of the group, rushed forward to the cockpit door and demanded that the pilot fly the plane to Sydney, Australia. Aware of what was developing, the pilot alerted air traffic controllers to the situation, before pointing out to Sahid that there wasn't sufficient fuel to reach Australia. Subsequently, after issuing numerous threats to the pilot, Sahid agreed to a compromise of landing in Singapore and refuelling prior to continuing on to Sydney. Meanwhile, at their base in the Queenstown district of Singapore, 39 police officers from the Singapore Police Tactical Team, the elite branch of the National Police Service, received the alarm of the hijack and at 2200 deployed to the Changi International Airport, where Flight 117 touched down 24 minutes later. Upon landing, the plane stopped in the middle of the runway and was surrounded by the police officers, whilst Sahid established a communication link with a negotiating team and outlined a series of demands the hijackers wanted, which were: first, the release of 11 of their colleagues, all of whom were in prison in Pakistan. Second, for them to be put in contact with the Pakistani ambassador to Singapore and former Pakistani Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto. And finally, for the aircraft to be refueled for the flight to Sydney. Sahid concluded that if none were met, all 125 hostages on board would be executed. As the negotiating team, operating from the airport's control tower, worked to defuse the situation, a detachment of commandos from the Singapore Armed Forces Commando Formation arrived at the airport, from where they made their way to an empty Airbus 310, the same model type of Flight 117, and began rehearsing for a possible operation to retake the aircraft. However, unless the situation worsened, ending the hijack in a peaceful manner was the preferred method, an approach that was put to the test multiple times as the hijackers took steps to show that they were serious with their threats, starting at 23:20 when one of the air stewards was thrown from the plane, at a height of 4.5 meters. Fortunately, he survived the fall and proved to be a valuable asset to the police and commandos in providing an update on the situation inside Flight 117, including the number of hijackers and weapons they were using. Eventually, at 02:30 on the morning of the 27th of March 1991, the negotiators agreed for the aircraft to be refueled, with the first load of petrol being delivered an hour later. Despite this, the hijackers were becoming increasingly agitated and anxious at the pace at which their demands were being met, which not only led to another member of the flight crew being thrown from the aircraft, but also concluded with Sahid issuing a final warning at 06:45. One of those in the negotiating team remembered, "They were tired of negotiating. They gave us 5 minutes to fulfill all their demands, or they would kill one hostage every 10 minutes. On board the other Airbus 310, the Singaporean Commandos were midway through one of their rehearsals when, at 06:47, word came through for them to storm Flight 117 immediately, under the codename of Operation Thunderbolt. One commando who was present at the time later stated, "To us it was just another drill. You've trained your mind to operate under duress. You cannot go there and start to think. We go there and do what we train for." At 06:50 on the 27th of March 1991, 6 teams, totaling approximately 20 Singaporean commandos, who were dressed in black with balaclavas and equipped with MP5 submachine guns, made their way across the tarmac to Flight 117. Approaching the aircraft from its tail end, to reduce the risk of being spotted, the assault teams reached their positions from where they attached their extendable ladders onto the bottom of the plane's doors, enabling the commandos to climb up and place small explosive devices onto the entrances. Meanwhile, inside the aircraft, Sahid checked his watch to see that the 5-minute deadline had ended, and began to make his way out of the cockpit and into the cabin to select the first hostage that was going to be executed. It was then that the breach charges detonated, enabling the commandos to swing open the doors and throw in their stun grenades. Once the grenades had gone off, the commandos followed, rushing into the aircraft and shouting for the hostages to remain in their place and keep their heads down. The assault teams, coming in from the back, quickly secured the rear cabin sections of the aircraft, during which they fired on and neutralised one of the hijackers. At the same time, the other commando teams rushed into the front section of the cabin, shooting dead 2 of the hijackers located in the cockpit, before identifying Sahid down one of the aisles and shooting him 5 times in the chest. Despite his wounds, Sahid attempted to recover his knife and muster whatever strength he could to fight back, but was finished off at close range with several more shots to the head. Within 30 seconds of the first breach charges being detonated, Flight 117 had been retaken, with all the hijackers neutralised and all 123 hostages on board safely recovered. One of the passengers recalled the immediate aftermath. The senior commander officer said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we are from the Singapore Armed Forces. We are here to rescue you. You are now safe. Please follow our instructions. Do not move until we tell you to do so." I felt a sense of relief on hearing those words. The commandos, after completing a search of the plane, then proceeded with the evacuation of the passengers. All of the emergency slides were deployed within seconds, and I could feel the cold morning breeze and sunlight coming into the cabin. It was the air of freedom. By 0700 on the 27th of March 1991, Operation Thunderbolt had come to a successful end, as the hostages boarded 3 buses which took them to the airport's terminal, and the Singaporean Commandos later that day returned back to their barracks for a mission debrief. One commando involved in the operation concluded, "After the whole thing, we realised that we had rallied and pulled through together as a team. What kept us going was a good training system and our due faith in every level that everyone involved would succeed in doing their job.